Yeah, I mean, first of all, St. Bonaventure's got a great team. They're going to win a lot of games. What gives me great optimism about our team is we can play a game and make that many mistakes on particularly on the defensive end of the floor and stuff and get a chance to win the game. So there's some positives to draw from that, but in reality, Neil, our defense was not very good in that game. We went back and charted every defensive possession. 57 of their 84 points was scored off defensive mistakes, which is obviously entirely too many. Didn't do a good job executing our principles. 26 of those points was off of drives to the middle of the floor, not getting to our ice ball screen coverage. Those are things that, the very first thing we do defensively all the way back in June is, when we're putting in our defensive concepts, we take away the middle of the floor and we ice ball screen. So those are day one foundational things that we just did not execute well enough to have a chance to win that game.
Are you concerned at all with where the defense is right now?
We got to get better in a hurry, and that's something that we're really focusing on. I think we had 2 great days of prep today and yesterday to really try to get some of those things cleaned up. You're not going to get everything cleaned up in 2 days, but I think we made some good progress and really emphasized the defensive end of the floor in preparation for Toledo, who is a great offensive basketball team.
Vlad made his debut for you guys
Mm-hmm.
down today. What did you kind of see from him, and how do you kind of envision his role kind of formulating as going forward?
Yeah, I mean, getting him back, and if we can get Tyler back here in the next couple days, it'll continue to add to our depth first and foremost. When we have all 3 of those guys healthy, Vlad, Iman, and Tyler, we've got some real depth at that position. You've seen where that could have played a factor in the game on Saturday because Iman and Vlad were both in foul trouble in the first half. But Vlad's a really good offensive player. Our system is kind of tailor-made for who he is with his ability to pass the ball, ability to play on the perimeter, ability to play in the post. I think our offense can get better with him in the game, and hopefully the defensive rebounding piece. He'll help us on that end of the floor with rebounding the basketball. He was one of the best defensive rebounders in the country in terms of his individual defensive rebound rate last year, which is another area we've got to get much better at.
So, Iman starting on Saturday, that was the result of Tyler being a little banged up.
Correct. Yeah, Tyler's got a nagging knee injury. He's played through some knee pain for most of the year, and it's just got to the point where we've got to shut him down for a few days and make sure we get that thing healthy to where he can play pain-free.
Well, you got 6 of 8 to open the season on the road. How do you never know. I mean, it's going to help you, but is it tough this early in the season to be on the road?
Yeah, I don't love it, Dana, and the main reason I don't love it is because we've got such a great home court atmosphere here. We feel like every time we play in this building, we've got a great chance to win. But as we've talked many times, scheduling is very difficult. It's getting harder and harder. It seems like for us to get home games. We'd love to play a bunch of games in this building, but the reality of the situation is we've got to fill a 31 game schedule, and just seems like it's very difficult to get those home games. Through 4 games, guys, we've played the 48th hardest schedule in the country. We've played 3 bye games, obviously the non-1, and we're sitting at 2-2. I think we could easily be 3-1 or 4-0. But we got to get some things cleaned up on the defensive end of the floor. There's certainly things we got to clean up offensively, but the most glaring thing that we've got to get better at is our half-court defense, just foundational day one principles to be able to go out and execute those, time after time after time, and we'll start winning.
You touched on scheduling. Do you try to schedule now for next year, or how does that?
Yeah, we're working on it right now. Yeah, it's gotten later and later. When I first got here to Youngstown, by December, you'd have your schedule done for the next year. But now, because of the transfer portal, you don't know who you're going to have on your roster. You don't know who other teams are going to have on their roster. It is certainly delaying it more and more. I mean, there's teams, this year that was scheduling all the way up into September for the current year they were in. And that's how, really the transfer portal and recruiting is kind of impacted scheduling as well.
Do you handle that, Ethan, or is that – I mean, I know Ron probably approves of it. Do you
Yep.
kind of handle all that?
Yeah, we kind of take a all hands on approach. Obviously, different guys on our staff have different relationships with different teams across the country. We have a couple guys on our staff that kind of try to spearhead it, but really we're all hands on deck with scheduling because again, it's been such a challenge for us that we're trying to utilize all the relationships we have across the country to kind of see who wants to play and who doesn't.
And speaking of relationships, do you think there could ever be maybe a game or home and home against Utah State maybe?
It's funny. I actually was talking with Jared yesterday, and it's very, very difficult for them. It's probably even more difficult for them to schedule because they're in a little bit different situation than us because they're trying to build a resume for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament in the case that they don't win the Mountain West tournament. We've had conversations about it, but he's got to focus on quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities, making sure he's got enough of those on his resume, enough of those quality wins to first get into the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid and then try to move up seed lines. And he's going to take advantage of those opportunities the best he can. And not that we could ever go there and win. I'm not saying that, but he's got to be very careful, obviously, about how he schedules in those other opportunities to make sure that he's getting those wins as well.
When you schedule Bryan and Stratton and Teal and Penn State Shenango, I mean, obviously they get a fee from.
Mm-hmm.
Same. It's a contract or whatever you call it for them as well as when you go.
Yeah, those are buy games for us. Yep.
Them. I mean, is that part of where we're headed?
Well, we want to try to play no more than 2 of those every year because, again, that gives us opportunities to get, a home game or another Division I opponent, or it might give us an opportunity to get another quad 1 or quad 2 game for us in the event that we win the Horizon League or in the NCAA tournament. That gives us a better opportunity to move up seed lines as well. While we're playing 3 non-1 games this year, we just couldn't get the schedule filled out in a manner that we had 31 games and we knew where we were going and knew who we were playing. We really took the third non-1 game because we couldn't get another Division I game.
Can the league help you out with that at all?
Yeah, they try. They do their best. Obviously we have Horizon League scheduling requirements that we have to meet. They're all the time. Different leagues are communicating with them when a particular team in their league may be looking for a game, and then they're in turn passing that along to the coaches in our league for people that are still looking for scheduling opportunities. There's so many factors that we have to balance with scheduling. One of another factor is we go on you taking flights and going all over the country. Not only is that impacting you on the back end in terms of the difficulty of the travel, but the financial piece to it as well. Trying to balance that. We don't want to be flying all over the country, playing road games where, again, we're beating ourselves up with difficulties of the travel, but also financial impacts of that as well.
Is it time maybe, Ethan, for the NCAA to maybe lower the 31 games to whatever? I mean, I know home games are part of, the money that we raise, but everyone's having trouble.
Yeah, the whole scheduling model with the NCAA is going to change next year. Right now, we have a 28+3 or a 29+2 model, which basically means if you play an MTE where you play 3 games, you get 28 other scheduling opportunities. If you play MTE with 2 games like we're doing this year, you get 29 other opportunities. If you don't play in an MTE, you only get 29 opportunities to play other games. Next year, it's going to change where you get 32 games. You can schedule those however you want. You can play in as many MTEs as you want. They're going to give us total freedom over that 32-game schedule. I think there's definitely some pros and cons to that we don't have to get into the weeds of all that today. But I do think it's going to give us a little bit more flexibility next year with our schedule, particularly with being able to play multiple MTEs. We've got some ideas of maybe working with some of the other area teams to try, hey, let's bring us, and let's just use an Akron or a Kent State or a Duquesne for an example, any of those, let's all go to one place, let's bring 2 teams there, and then you get 2 games in one weekend, kind of like we do with the MTs now. So there's some creative things we can do moving forward now that the NCAA has given us a little bit more flexibility with scheduling.
Bison, obviously when he was at Houston Christian, he was that guy, he was the number 1 option, and he averaged 14, 15 points a game. Now how do you feel like through or adjusted to a new role, so to speak, and maybe a deeper team, a team with more scoring options now that he's, not going to be called upon as that number one guy, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryson's going to be a number one guy for us. At some point in the year, he's a guy I've got a lot of confidence in. Really believe in him as a player. He is an unbelievable kid. Wants to be coached. Brings it every single day. Our offense is totally different than he's used to playing, right? And he's still trying to figure some of those things out. And it's much like a lot of the players we've had in the past in terms of the transfers we've brought in, it just takes some guys a little bit longer than others, right? And he's still trying to get it all pieced together, but he's going to get it figured out because he's a relentless worker. He's constantly watching extra film. He's a guy that's going to be a huge piece for what we're doing moving forward. And again, a guy I really believe in what he can do.